We heard about people who were, spending, even in July 24, more than 50% of the cases that were filed against journalists were under investigation. So it's very clear that these cases are not meant to go to a final decision ever. They're just kept hanging over people's heads to stop them from writing, to stop them from speaking, and sometimes to stop you from even thinking. Taking someone, I wouldn't say even arresting. We've heard these descriptions that people were picked up from their homes, blindfolded, driven around. The official arrest came much later, sometimes one day, sometimes more than one day. And then after the arrest, again, the same practices being produced before courts which routinely denied bail. We heard about people who were, spending, even in July 24, more than 50% of the cases that were filed against journalists were under investigation. So it's very clear that these cases are not meant to go to a final decision ever. They're just kept hanging over people's heads to stop them from writing, to stop them from speaking, and sometimes to stop you from even thinking the kinds of things you can say, not even articulating them in private. So I think this report will be valuable for us, not only for the recommendations, and I'll come to that, but I think for the fact it's laid out in detail, case by case. We have 30 cases, I think, but we have all of the details, which it is very difficult, I think, for anyone to refute. And particularly now when we're hearing so much disinformation from around the globe and inside our mobile phones on social media about what is the situation in Bangladesh, what is the change, acknowledging all of the many challenges we face with the changes. It's important for us to remember where we're coming from. We didn't come from a golden age 1 year ago. We came from a time of extreme darkness. We may not be in a golden age right now, but we're in a time of, in some ways, less darkness. I think we have to acknowledge that. That's really important. In terms of the practices, Roman, that you asked about, I think, again, they're well detailed in this report, and we heard clearly about them this morning as well. I want to just speak a bit about what we've seen in court, actually, and maybe before that also about the police, because there are changes now in place that should prevent the same kind of police action. For example, there was, I think, something you can update in the report. You mentioned that the guidelines that the Supreme Court had given for arrest without warrant in the last judgment are pending implementation, but actually the amendment to the CRPC has been made this year, and many of those guidelines have already been incorporated. So that's a big step forward. But where there is not so much of a step forward is whether we have full implementation of that new amendment. And I think, unfortunately, as journalists, many of you will know, we still have many cases where that is not being effectively implemented and we don't have protections in place. But at least in terms of the legal framework, we're a big step forward.